the girls to stand up, but it did have a small window that apparently no one had noticed from the ground before. The room was empty except for one thing, an old wooden trunk with a curved lid. It was wrapped in a chain attached to a rusty padlock. "This could be our treasure," said Maria. "Or body parts," added Sonia. "Oh, stop with the dead bodies, will you? Go get me the sword and let's cut this chain." This time the girls made short work of the chain. Now it was time to open up the trunk. Standing as far away as she could while still holding the lid, Maria slowly and carefully opened it. Then she inched closer and peered inside. "Well, will you look at this?" Maria said. She pulled out a gold container about the size and shape of a water pitcher. It had no spout or handle. "What is it?" asked Sonia. "I think it's an urn," Maria replied. She lifted the lid off the container and noticed it was filled with ashes. "It's a burial urn, all right. See, it was a dead body. I was right," gloated Sonia. "What a bummer," said Maria. "I wonder who it was. There's no inscription or anything." After inspecting the urn, she put it back into the trunk and shut the lid. After they closed the door to the room, the sisters agreed to wait a few days before telling their parents. Maria wanted the extra time to think of a way they could use the secret room to pull a practical joke on them. But there would be nothing funny in the Blanco household over the next 2 nights. Only terror. Because Sonia's bedroom was being painted, the sisters slept that night in the twin beds in Maria's room. Sometime around 3 o'clock a.m., Maria woke up in confusion and fear, feeling a tremendous weight on her chest. She could hardly breathe. It felt as though some invisible being was on top of her. Maria tried to pound on him, but her hands seemed to go right through the attacker. She tried to scream, but she felt an ice-cold hand cover her mouth. Panic surged through her body. "He's trying to kill me!" With every ounce of strength left in her body, Maria thrashed on her bed until she tumbled to the floor. The commotion woke up Sonia, but before she could say or do anything, the evil force gripped her by the throat and began to squeeze until she thought she would choke to death. Just then, Maria crawled to the wall and flicked on the light. The attack was over, and there was no one there. The bedroom door was still closed, and so were the windows. The 2 girls threw themselves into each other's arms and sobbed hysterically until Jorge and Teresa ran into the room. Each parent grabbed a child and comforted her until she had calmed down. Between sobs and gasps for breath, the girls related their horrible ordeal. At first, it was too hard for their parents to comprehend. "Is there any way this could have been some terrible nightmare?" asked Jorge. "How could we both have had the same dream?" said a still shaking Maria. "And how do you explain this?" She rolled up the sleeve to her nightshirt, revealing huge welts on her forearms. "And this?" she added, pointing to several ugly bruises on her legs. "Jorge!" exclaimed Teresa. "Look at Sonia's neck!" The skin above her collarbone was red and had the imprint of a pair of giant hands. The Blancos called the police, who sped out to the house and listened to the girls' stories. They examined the room, dusted for fingerprints, and looked around the outside of the house, but there was no evidence of forced entry. After the police left, Maria and Sonia told their parents about the secret room. Their father immediately bounded up the stairs, crawled into the tiny room, opened the trunk, and examined the urn. Somehow he felt better knowing the ashes were still inside. The next night, Jorge sat in a chair in the girls' room, promising to protect them if there was any trouble. After tossing and turning in bed for several hours, the exhausted sisters finally fell asleep. Shortly before 3 o'clock a.m., Jorge nodded off too. That's when the invisible force entered the room again. Maria was roused out of her sleep by an icy hand that clamped onto her foot and jerked her off the bed. She let out a cry of absolute terror. Maria rolled onto the floor, desperately trying to fend off someone or something that no one could see. Meanwhile, the invisible force had grabbed Sonia by the arm and slammed her against the wall. By now, Jorge had bolted out of his chair and flipped on the light. Crazed with anger, he began flailing away at the air and snarled, "Fight me, you monster! Take me on! Show yourself, you coward!" But the unseen evil had quit its attack, leaving both girls curled up in trembling balls of fear in separate corners of the room. Gently, Teresa, who had just rushed in, and Jorge led the girls downstairs to the living room and tried to calm them. The next day, while the family moved in with relatives, Jorge tried to unravel the frightening mystery. He was convinced the evil force was